Welcome to Innovator Café, the entrepreneur go-to, with your host, attorney Dave Stevens. Through each episode, Dave and his guests provide resources and assurances to build a company growth roadmap. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the website StevensLawGroup.com. Now here's the host of Innovator Café, Dave Stevens.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us at Innovator Café. We are bringing a series of podcasts that talk to innovators in many different industries and not just tech, that can share their experiences and life experiences and also the way they have innovated themselves and their careers and things they've done in different ways that can apply to just about any company, any career, any person, any stage in their life. Today we have Ken Bradley. Ken Bradley is a close friend. He's also my son's baseball coach, right? And what does baseball have to do with innovation? Well, Ken Bradley has been teaching and coaching baseball and playing baseball for many, many years. And watching him coach my kids and working with him, I've realized that a lot of things he's done, a lot of things that he does, innovative things with kids and coaching and really teaching, can apply to many aspects of life, not just kids and life lessons, adults and life lessons, careers and management. So let's bring in Ken Bradley here, and we'll start our conversation.
Hello, Dave. Pleasure to be here.
Ken, thanks so much for joining us here. It's really, really good to see you. I gave you a brief intro. But you know what got me to invite you in here and bring you in, Ken, is that I've seen you inspire kids, and frankly, it's inspired me, and not just for what you're doing with kids in baseball and Little League and otherwise, but all this transfers to life, not just the kid's life, but adult life. Of course, it's never too late to learn these lessons, right? And I want to talk also about how these things can apply to careers and management. Right. A lot of these things that you do and talk, you teach and your background, your experiences, all of that can apply to different aspects of life and not just kids. So when they leave, they don't have to leave all this coaching behind. Right. So, but let's start from the basic. Tell us about yourself, Ken, and tell a little bit about your background and how you got into coaching.
Well, I started playing baseball when I was probably about 5 years old, and it was one of the things the community did in a small community up in the East Bay, a very poor community, inner cities, El Sobrante, just north of Berkeley, around Richmond, and it was a very tight-knit little community. Everybody in the neighborhood played together, and Little League and kind of sports was one of the things that really brought the community, the kids together. So as it kind of seemed to me, everybody's kind of going down their individual lives and going to elementary school and so forth, but then afterwards, Little League kind of brought everybody together. We'd all come out and play and support one another. And it was just a community attraction to me that brought me close to my friends, and it was just fun to go out there and challenge. And also, as a little kid, you could see, hey, there were also some adults on the radio at the time. There was no TV for me, but I could hear them playing on the radio. And so, yeah, that was kind of what got my first love of the game back at my youth.
That's great. Well, tell us a little bit about your career before you're primarily a coach right now. Tell us a little bit about your business career and type of jobs you had as you were growing up.
Well, very good. So throughout youth, I always was playing baseball. Never missed the season. Baseball, basketball, and football. Just stayed active doing all that. But clearly, school was very important. So getting good grades was important. And when it came time to leave high school, my family really didn't have the means and had an older brother and sister that were already in college, and family kind of struggling. I didn't want to put the strain on them. So I decided to learn electronics and go hit Silicon Valley. It was something that was kind of booming at the time. I enjoyed math and just thought it was something I could do. Didn't really resonate with me, but just kind of thought it was a job I could do. So jumped in Silicon Valley about 1975, worked around many different electronic companies as it was just really booming. And as a youth, I wanted to stay physical, in my mid-20s. And so I was playing a lot of fast pitch softball and slow pitch softball. And then really what started my coaching career was I was right around 28, 29, playing very competitive. And one of my coworkers, kids coaches he was 10 years old at the time, the coach walked away from the team. And so they had no coach. And so he asked me if I'd just go out there to watch the kids one day, and went out there with the practice and saw these very energetic little kids kind of at a loss, didn't know how to play, but I resonated with them right away. And they just started playing music and dancing on the field and just were excited to learn to catch and throw. And then that just got me hooked. And so I, throughout my electronics career, it seemed like I would always try to play or coach a youth team. And that was kind of my connection into coaching youth sports.
Wow, that lucky team. I mean, being abandoned for whatever reason by a coach, what do you do? Really, what do you do? Well, tell me about the state of Little League baseball generally when you were a kid and how it is today, how much it's changed and what you see.
Oh, just a huge difference. Little League at that time, clearly it was for the fun of the game. Everybody was out there just for the fun. Now, we didn't have the instruction. We didn't have the high-tech video to see how we were doing. Most of the time with every one of my coaches, they come out there with like one of those duffel bags like you left from the Army with, throw a bag of equipment out there and say, kids, go play. And whoever would pick up the balls and bats, and they give us a little bit of instruction, and but it was very loosely organized, and it felt a lot to me like we were playing just on the playground, and it just had some equipment out there that an adult would be overseeing. And then it was a very loose, fun thing. Everybody that signed up was on a team, and they were all in your little community. And everybody in my little elementary school would go play all the other elementary schools. And we just did that for years. So by the time we got to junior high, we knew all the other kids that we've been playing against. And so that was kind of even an extended community. And, it wasn't just the better players. It was just everybody played. And we didn't really think of it in a hierarchy at all. It was just us playing against the neighborhood, ride our bikes over there, play against them. And it was just for the fun of the game. And the parents were, they seemed like they were very much out of it. You could kind of hear them rooting a little bit in the background, but it was just us kids playing. And that has changed drastically from now. And
tell me about what it's like today. My kids are in baseball right now. I tell you, it sounds nothing like what you're describing.
I could really see a drastic change when my sons start coming around, and they are now 32, and I coached them all the way through. And when I had started off, I was still energetic and still loved the game. And I'd been coaching before my sons were born. And I had seen that just that love that I had for the game, many coaches weren't doing that. They were just more dictators out there yelling at the kids, calling them names. It was kind of the thing to cuss at them and say that they weren't doing. And that was, quote unquote, how you motivated players. And I had a lot of coaches that were like that too. You motivate by yelling at you. And that never worked for me as a kid. I wanted somebody to tell me how to do it. Tell me I could. And then I'd have some fun and had a better chance. And if you were yelling at me and I was afraid I was going to make a mistake. So I started coaching that way, where I was just out there encouraging the kids, wanted them to play. It was okay to make mistakes. This game is fun. And through our wins and losses, the kids got better and really enjoyed. And as I was saying, as my sons start coming through, competition became more. And I started to see a big change. The parents were living through their kids. They had to see their kid do good. If not, it was a bad reflection on them. And they would then yell at their kids if they didn't do good because that embarrassed them or something, it almost seemed like. And then it would be criticism. So if a kid did do good, then parents would want to criticize that kid or parent because their kid wasn't as good. And so it became more of a parent thing than living through their kids, and the kids that were kind of fighting just to kind of have that camaraderie that we grew up with, and kind of push the parents and that out of the way. And Yeah, and that was kind of the big transition that the kids were trying to achieve for the parents' sake more than just having fun.
Why do you think that happened? You've seen
I
this.
think the biggest. Go ahead.
I see you've seen this evolve in front of you. Why do you think that this has changed?
Because of the pyramid that you have to rise to the top to get that college scholarship. If my son isn't at the top in Little League, he's not going to get to go to Stanford. So I'm going to push him at the top. So every Stanford University is going to pick my kid. And I don't care what it takes, that I have to make sure that he's available for that. And then it went from just trying to do that in the little local community to then trying to go get a travel team so I could say my kid traveled around, had all this experience. Then, of course, with that, if they didn't perform, then you got to go hire private lessons. So whatever it takes to get my kid at the top of the heap, and I'm going to invest all this money and time, and you don't realize how much more pressure that puts on the kid to achieve and not really just be a buddy with his teammate and lift them up. He has to get at the top of the pile. If not, he's letting down his family, the community. He's not a star, quote unquote, then he's failed. So that was a big change I've seen.
Like potty training at gunpoint, right?
Yeah. Yes, it almost was.
Where does the fun come in, right? Yeah. Tell me, so what are the statistics, roughly, of kids getting into college in baseball and getting full scholarships? I mean, is that a reality?
Oh my gosh. The numbers, people will constantly throw them out. You can just see from experience, it is so few. There are so few that go beyond college. Now, I think that within the parents and the community of baseball, we can get a lot of the kids to be able to play in high school and maybe even find a college to play if that's what they really enjoy. But when the whole goal is I have to be D1, I got to get drafted in the first round, then that kind of skews it. But if it's just, I want to have a good high school career, and if I really like it, I'll get into junior college somewhere, or maybe catch on then that becomes kind of realistic. But the numbers are so small of the ones that actually do make it, that it just giving the kids a false goal to be shooting for at 9, 10, 11 years old.
Right. Well, yeah, and it kind of misaligns this playing a game with actual academic achievement, which is their ultimate goal. Explain a little bit about the college system, D1, 2, 3, and 4. What does that mean?
Well, so what it basically is level of play, right? Within baseball, you have the majors, and you have everybody that's trying to get to the majors, so you can be on ESPN and you get the millions of dollars they hear about. So to get to that, then there's AAA below that, and there's AA and single A, and all the players.
We're still talking about adults now. We're still talking about adults now, right?
Yes, now we're up to, I'm starting from adults, working my way down, and this is a long way. And when I even look at that, when I'm talking about single A, double A, triple A, that is now majors. You're professional. You're being paid to play. There are so few. You're at the top of the pyramid. That's the very best players you've seen playing in Little League, and they were just very, very great. And now you might see them go on and be at the very top of that pyramid. And it's such a small number of players that and the numbers get a lot bigger in high school, that before you've even gotten, let's say even to college, that before you've even gotten to the minors to get to single A, you've had to make it through your college career. And before you've even gotten to your college career, most guys, you have to make your junior college career, or at least your freshman and sophomore year in college, where you have these older, bigger guys that are already trying to make it to the pros and have been working real hard. The pyramid gets awful thin, and it takes time to make it up there. And do you have the time, the wherewithal, the luck, the skill to really ride through it? It's just a really tough grind. And just one thing I would like to add, I even saw for my son, once he had became a very top junior college player, he had gotten a scholarship at a D1 school at New Mexico State. And seeing that grind, I just didn't want pros for him. I mean, after doing it after all these years, to see how few actually make it, the pain you have to go through, the kind of life traveling around, hoping you make it through injuries and disappointment. I just really wanted a different life for him. Just go on off in life. Hey, it's been good. And that dream of making it to the pros, oh, it's just so difficult and a false thing that I'm glad I kept a little bit of a balance for him, that he didn't think, oh, my life is over because I didn't make it to the pros.
Yeah. Well, that's great that your kid had that experience and sure had your perspective, but not every parent has that, right? So switching gears, looking at careers, management, and business, the parallels to me seem very obvious, right? Here you're chasing these elusive goals of going, I mean, my God, the majors, how few people actually play. You could see them on one poster, every single player in the majors, right? There's so few, and there's 350 million people in the country. I mean, let's be realistic here, yeah. And careers, they kind of see the same thing, right? If you look at Harvard, Stanford, we could just start going down that line. Only so many kids get in, right? So here are these two, super high pressure goals that parents put on their kids, whether it's baseball or college, and they start to get mixed in, right? I mean, a kid could end up getting in a better college, but he ends up going to like a D4 school or something because he really wants to play baseball. What's the goal here, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in careers, it seems to me it's no different, right? What are your career goals? What are your educational goals, right? And there's this adage that, everything I ever needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten, right? That is about people and life skills and life. And it seems like baseball is kind of like a graduate study for kids starting at 5 years old after kindergarten, where they're continuing to learn these life lessons. So what can kids really learn, and adults too, from experiences in baseball? And we'll try to transcend that into adulthood.
Hmm. Well, certainly, as a youth, the kids, they get out there and they're trying to find their place. I just want to be a buddy, and hey, here's the other ones. I want to contribute. I see in this game I can do a little something to help. I might be able to get a hit, catch a fly ball. Hey, but I want that pat on the back. I want to sit on the bench and know that I'm kind of welcome there. And they see throughout the game, though, there's ups and downs, that no matter who you are, even if you're the best player, well, guess what? You struck out, you made an error, but still you learn to support that player. And while individuals are there trying to have that interaction with their peers, there's always this overbearing parental thing that's over there. They're trying to support their kid. Their buddy right there, they may hear him getting yelled at by the parent, or the coach is suddenly disappointed at them, or the umpire makes a bad call, and hearing a parent yell at them, and then the kid's kind of confused. Hey, I thought I was supposed to respect that coach, but that umpire, but now I hear my coach is yelling at them, and they're learning lessons like that. How do I deal with it? With authority and adults, and these lessons that I've learned. So the kid is going through these games, trying to have fun, but all of these lessons are being learned, and they want to leave the game and feel good and go play with their buddy. But, one of it might be crying because he struck out and made the last out. And many times I've seen the kid very upset because they knew they lost, and knew dad was going to be very pissed because, we're supposed to be winners, not losers. And, you lose a game and you're becoming a loser. You're teaching. And I've had parents scold me that because I'm teaching my kids his kid to be a loser because we didn't win the game. And, as we're going through the battles, and the kids listen at this, and the one thing too with parents, they don't realize how much the kids are listening to what they say to the other parents, to the other kids, how they're belittling the other team or whatever. The kids hear all this, and as they're just trying to find their little place within the team and during the game, they think that ESPN and all the colleges are staring at them, and and they get confused by it as they're trying to develop and learn to play this game.
That was really a great explanation. I had some conversations with Danny Glover a while back, and one thing he said I thought was kind of profound was that baseball is one of the only few, if not the only example where a kid can play out and actually live his imagination, where he's standing there at the plate, or he's pitching, or he's doing anything, right? If he's sitting on the bench, right, where he's actually living his imagination. He might not be at Giants Field. He might not be, a New York Yankee, but when he's standing there at the plate, there's no different Derek Jeter or him. Those feelings are the same, aren't they?
Absolutely, because the kid, he goes in his backyard and he's practicing the free throws, thinking he's Steph Curry. He's there swinging the bat off the tee, thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be the next Otani." The kids, they're living that. So then when they get in the game, they think, "Oh, it's on. This is my chance to be that guy." And as Danny Glover said, they are living out their dreams, be it on the bench, be it up at the plate, on third base, whatever, on the pitcher's mound with the bases loaded and all the parents yelling at them, they're living out their dream.
It's funny, leaving childhood behind. I got to tell you, I can't think of another experience that I've had where I was actually living my imagination, truly living my dream, right?
Yeah.
And here's this kid with this opportunity, and it's manufactured for him. He could go there and live his dream. So what happens to the parents when they're interfering with the game?
Well, as you can imagine, the parents are, like I say, a lot of the thing that ruined it is the parents start to live out their dream. So instead of realizing that the kid is there going through all these emotions, he's 0 for 2, hoping to get a hit, and the parent is chomping at the bit, screaming at the pitcher umpire, hoping to make the umpire allow the kid to get a hit. Or then if it doesn't come through, the disappointment, the kid hears it, and then it's failure and so forth. And then the cheers of when the other kid does get a hit. Oh boy, I'm happy for them. But, in my dream, I want to feel that too, where I feel the crack of the bat, it goes over the fence and everybody's patting me on the back. But as they are chasing it, it's hard to fulfill it and make it a positive, fun experience for the kid. Because, again, the parents are putting so much pressure for that success and not realizing it is just, the kid just living out his dream, playing the game with his buddies.
Well, it's funny, and getting to know you, and you may not even realize it, but I see you acting a coach to every ordinary day people in their careers and speaking to your sons. I mean, put yourself in the place of a career coach. How would you do anything different? Not much, it sounds like.
No, it really wouldn't. Yeah, I think that because there's a lot of things that really translate into real life, as you say, and it is understanding the rules, getting in there, you show up and give it your very best. You try hard. You block out all that negative stuff. There's going to be some failure. You keep believing in yourself, trying the best you can, and just be guided with your heart. Be a good-hearted person. Be a good competitor. Respect the game. Respect other people. Give it your very best. And at the end of the day, take the outcome and be ready to come back the next day and give it your best again. And I think if that can really translate to success in a lot of different things. And I think these lessons that you do learn, and using the analogy of baseball in almost any career, you can see how the analogy would really fit and, could be a life coach in some way.
Yeah. It's funny. You also, we had a conversation not long ago about how coaches are measured, right? I mean, certainly that coach who has a team in first place, he can do no wrong. I've never heard criticism of somebody in first place, right? But you know how they got there, right? It's not all about rotating the kids and everybody giving a fair shot, right? Talk about how you would measure a coach. Not to get too judgy here. How would you get to measure a coach? What's a good coach and what's a bad coach?
Yes, and that kind of feeds in again to that whole youth sports now of getting my kid to Stanford. So the coach, a parent thinking that I got to get my kid into Stanford. The only way I can do that is with a coach that wins. He produces winners. He gets trophies. Look, they're always winning. So then the coach knows that, even if he's an ex-college player, or if he never even played the game, he realized, get me all the best players. Let me get the best players, the guy that can strike everybody out, that can hit a home run against everybody. I put them in there. I win. So then great. I'm a great coach. And guess what? I'm going to do what I can within the league to get me good players again next year. I do this year after year, and I am considered a good coach. The going through youth sports, clearly the thing that coaches should be measured on is how well do your players improve? Do they like the game, and do they want to come back and play again next year? If your players are improving, then they want to come back and play. I don't care if you win or lose the game. It doesn't really matter. But if your kids are competitive, they know how to play the game, then you are the coach that should be the one rewarded. Every league, in every little league I've ever coached in, pony baseball or little league, for me to get the all-star team, I had to win first place. And so then the incentive to be able to take the best players, the players that have now achieved at the top end, and to put them all together and go play against all the players in the other neighborhood that have got the top end. Your pride wants to get in there and say, I'm the one that can put them together. All these best players are with me. And now watch as I go out there. I'm the baseball guy. Again, I have the best players, watch me win. It starts to feed into the ego. I was certainly drawn within that too. I was incentivized to win. Well, fortunately, I had twin boys that were very good, and so my teams were usually good, and I could go and train guys and make them really enjoy the game. So we were usually competitive, and so I got a lot of the all-star teams. But I did make it a point. My sons had to learn to sit the bench. I don't care if they were the best or not. They had to have a time where they had to sit the bench and watch these other guys. And I would always find the time to do it. Now, my team wound up losing a close game because I didn't start my son and play him the whole game. Well, we just had to take that loss, and he had to learn to sit there and support another teammate. So there's just certain things like that I think can be applied that is a better measure of a good coach than just how many wins. I got this one guy that I can pitch every game. He strikes everybody out. Well, aren't I great? And even though the kid ruins his arm, doesn't want to play anymore. But anyway, that's kind of one of the big problems with it today, is that the youth, how you are rewarding coaches. So then all the other coaches want to aspire to be that same guy. And a lot of it is yelling, barking, intimidating, in your voice, you're basically saying, I know more baseball than you. If you knew what I did, then you'd be getting hits, or you'd be winning. And
it's the ultimate measure. You have to win.
Yeah.
The ultimate measure. So there are rules that apply to the coaches that sounds like they're in complete conflict with the rules and the goals that you're trying to teach these kids.
Absolutely. They're in conflict. And so if all the upcoming coaches, you are taught to win from a young age, even because every league, they got the all-stars. And how do you get the all-stars? Well, my team's got to win. So from the time they start playing at 8, 9, 7, 8, 9 years old, the coaches are incentivized to win. It's never just, hey, who had the most fun? Let the players vote for the coach. Let all the players in the league vote for who they want as their coach, and you'd have a different outcome, not just the winner.
And it would be something that's probably more consistent with the rules, because if the rules are being followed to optimize the kids' experience, the kids are going to choose the coach that made them feel good. Isn't that the ultimate outcome?
Absolutely. And I think even that whole kid involvement, you can apply it to many things. Let the kids set the lineup. They know who the guy, it's his turn to pitch. Hey, this other guy should be playing third base now. Hey, let's juggle the lineup. Your son is batted first every game. And guess what? It's somebody else's turn to bat first. The kids would be very fair. Picking all-stars, they would know who the best players are. They're not, they're gonna not just pick their friend, not just pick the coach's son that's the most popular. They're gonna pick the guys that they think really deserved it, and it'd be a much better experience.
Imagine if you took your best team that you raised like this and you started a startup company and you had them run it. So many parallels there, right?
Yep.
I mean, imagine how that would play out, right? You've got a cohesive team that supports each other. They're not based on performance. Of course, everybody wants to win. You want to be successful with this stuff, right?
Sure.
Do you see a difference in, let's say, a team like the way that you would coach versus a team where they potty train at gunpoint, where the pressure's on, right? Do you see a difference in if success is winning, do you see a difference in the winning? Is there a big difference?
Well, and that's part of the fun that I really had in coaching, was having a team that you almost would wait for them to go crumble. That you get in competition with just, hey, you guys, they're starting to yell at the umpire, just stay cool. They're gonna, and then you start to see that they feed on each other. We're facing a top pitcher. Great. Let's just keep battling with them. As soon as a bad call happens, as soon as we get a couple hits on them, they're going to, and we try not to let that ever happen to us, where something in the game gets us where we're either so focused on the umpire, so mad at the other team, or so mad at one of our players that we lose our cohesion and just continue supporting ourselves throughout the whole game. And I think in that style of under the gun point, when you have some top players, I've certainly seen that be a very intimidating thing, because it almost seems like there's this military team coming after you. They're drilled real hard, and here you are trying to be a fun-loving, let's go out there and play this thing right, and then this hard thing is being driven at you, and there is a tendency to kind of want to give into that, but staying lighthearted, because when the pressure is on, and that's great until the game gets tight, until, suddenly it is the bases loaded and you're down by a run, and then all that tension, and to me, it's just not the way a human being functions very well. When you're more comfortable, not under stress, feeling relaxed, you'll perform a lot better than that guy under pressure. And especially trying to play against those guys.
Yeah, especially a child. But it doesn't change when you get older, does it? It probably
right. Exactly right.
The resiliency of a kid, and here you are in your career, and you're feeling all this pressure. How can you perform?
Absolutely. And as a boss, to give your employee the information they need. Instead of yelling at them for the mistake, guide them, tell them what they did wrong, give them some support, let them know, hey, everybody makes mistakes. And then we try not to make them over and over again, but then that's how we learn. And then you bring your team together instead of isolating them and making them not feel apart. And instead of that one employee that's part of the team that didn't finish on time or didn't quite do it right, have the whole team come together to help them succeed, show them how they can improve. And you see, if a person, just like the little teammate, if they want to be a team, they want to make everybody happy, they're trying, but they realize everybody's not perfect. They need that support. And that brings a team together instead of dividing it, and it makes everybody on the team improve and become better.
Yeah. Hey, so all you startup folks, all you business people who are watching this podcast, listen up. Here's the parallels, right? I mean, imagine if you were coaching, you're a manager coaching your employees, right? And you were following Ken Bradley's process, right? How would you do things differently? Imagine if an employee, if the measure of the management was how many of your employees love working here? I mean, do they even ask employees that? I wonder if they do, right? No, they're like, I don't know. He didn't perform last time. Really? So maybe he was so bottled up in all this pressure and tension that he couldn't perform, right? So
Yes.
taking the parallel of a dysfunctional team, you step in as a coach. If you were a manager at a company, how could you turn things around? How would you use these skills as a baseball coach to turn your group around in a company?
I think it would be the first thing is to sit and listen to your team and understand each individual for what they are, and they are a team that needs to come together. And then as a boss, to get off of the high horse that you're the one that knows it all and you're telling them, and that you are a servant to them, that you will be successful as a boss when I am there to serve you to do your job better. If there's any
Servant
reason,
mindset.
pardon?
Servant mindset.
I think and that I think is what I try to do as a coach. I'm there to serve my players, to give them the knowledge they don't know, to make them a better player. The fact that they did not know to tag up on that fly ball, that's my fault as a coach. I should have told them and drilled them. Even if I told them once, I obviously didn't train them, because now when it came down to doing it, they did not know. So instead of getting mad at them and punishing them for it and yelling at them for not knowing, it is me as a leader. I need to serve them better. I need to guide them and teach them better. And showing that compassion when that time comes, I think they're going to believe in me more. They're going to trust me in the tough times. So when things get tough, they're going to come to me and rely on me, not run away and try to hide their errors and their shortcomings or make excuses. They're going to come and let's solve the problem and move forward as a team, and not being afraid that my players are going to know more than me or become better than me. That's all okay. That must mean I'm good as a coach if I can. And so as a manager, that your team excels, that they are doing very good, that when you make mistakes, they come together and they figure out how to really fix it. If you have a trouble employee that hasn't been doing things right, you sit together as a team and you try to talk to them and pull together. And a person that wants to be a part, you'll see they're going to really try, and then the team works better together. And I think the manager gets a lot more respect, and then that immediate after I left the meeting, everybody's afraid of me, and that kind of respect.
Yeah, it's funny. My father, rest in peace, he worked at Ford Motor Company for 38 years. He never wanted to go above an engineer. He was always offered that management, right? He was credited for helping more managers get promoted above him than anybody else in his whole sector, right? And it goes along with what you're talking about. I mean, if you are happily promoting your employees to go over your head, they become your boss, look out if they don't like you, right? But you promoted them and you helped them. Doesn't that start to spread around the whole company?
Oh, and what a team member. Everybody would want him around. What a team member. He's happy doing what he is. And we can never forget what is going on in the individual. So that person that is with that edge and me, what is going on in that person's brain and the tension versus a person that's lighthearted, loving, just like the player that's mad and throwing the helmet because he doesn't get a hit, or he's afraid he's going to, walk the guy and his dad's going to be mad. So he's yelling at the umpire and ready to cry, versus a kid that's happy-go-lucky. Yeah, I'm giving it my best. I know I'm going to get supported. And that mindset goes internally, because as you say, as Danny Glover said, they're living out their imagination either way. And you can make
either way, they're living out their imagination.
That's right. Either way, they're living out their imagination.
And when the parents step in and interfere with the game, I mean, something specific, when they're telling them something to do that their coach didn't tell them to do, or they're contradicting them. All sports, soccer. I mean, soccer is probably even worse. You've got a whole line of these parents that think they're coaches. The kids can't even hear their coach.
Right. And they don't realize how they're interfering.
And they're interfering with them experiencing their imagination. If their father put pressure on the coach to get him this position, that's a lot different than them earning that position, right?
Absolutely.
Suddenly there's this entitlement mentality, right? So It's so interesting how this also parallels in the career. These favorite employees that get in through politics and conniving and buttering up relationships, right? I mean, and it's not just about performance, is it?
No, not at all. And that's what I think. As adults, you kind of learn. As I mentioned, my two sons, we talk about the parallels as they go walk off into the real world, the working world, how it parallels teams. And when we, signing up as a little youth and just trying to learn and being a rookie, and then now when you're a veteran and really stepping in, and can you really earn away? I mean, like a lot of the kids, they will go in the little league and just say, hey, there's no way I can earn away on the all-star team. All these guys, they were on the team last year. I don't care how good I do. I know in the back of my mind, even if I get a home run every time up, I am not going to be on that team. But they still try to live out their dream, thinking that they're going to play good enough to earn it right alongside that other guy that's an all-star. And a lot of times they will see at the end of the year, I got more hits than you, and I actually caught more, but you're on the All-Stars. That doesn't really fit in my mind, but it happens in the real world too. So here are two different people, have the same sales quota, and one that gets promoted and achieves, and the other one that, nope, you have to stay there and just continue grinding year after year. And, it just goes on in real life as well. And these are these parallels of then how do you treat it as an athlete then? Do you give up? Do you quit? Do you get mad at the game? Do you break the rules? Do you be that disruptive factor and start throwing your helmet or what? What is your reaction?
It's what I've seen a lot around these baseball fields, and I see this in careers. I've worked with big law firms. I've seen big companies, many, highly achieved, intelligent people who have done very well for themselves. There's some that get through merit, working hard, and some get through it because they understand the system.
Yep.
Manipulate the system. Manipulate is probably a little bit strong. They play politics. It's probably the nicest way I could say about it, right? Mm-hmm. They're learning that on the baseball field too, aren't they?
Indeed. They really are. Kids are really a lot wiser than we think. And I'm being a coach, and I'm not, it's not my son anymore. I'm just a one-on-one coach. So I'm not the guy setting the lineup. I'm not the guy. Yeah. So I get to sit on the outside and work with them on the different things, hear their dreams and desires, because they will talk a lot. Now, once they have gotten comfortable with me and it's safe ground, and one of the biggest things that makes them comfortable with me, they can make mistakes and they're still cool with me. They can make mistakes over and over again. I'm never going to call them a name. I'm never going to put them down about it. That's encouraging that you made a mistake. Now we can improve. So then the first thing that we almost start off doing, tell me, how'd your last game or practice go? Let me know the mistakes you made. Where did you have difficulty? Where were you afraid? What made you uncomfortable there? And a lot of times it is, things that they've been told, or they're afraid of the reaction of the coach, or that they really been wanting to play this position, but they're still just in the outfield. How can they get there? And these are just little disappointments that a coach could fix very quickly. If you knew a person really wanted to be your second baseman, but you don't think they're ready, you put them in the outfield all the time. You can clearly practice them at second base. You can look at a game that you're ahead by a lot or behind by a lot and put them in there. As they get better, you can go challenge them in an important game. Let them start off there. All of that just feeds into their enjoyment, the team believing in you, showing that you're a leader, understanding your players, and the game becomes more fun, and you're not going to lose that many more games than if you just started that same second baseman and put that guy in the outfield the same place every single time.
There needs to be room for training, isn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about too. I mean, you watch these games. I've seen these where there are, not to be derogatory to the kids, there are these kids that cry. I mean, they're not crybabies. They're broken out there, right? And companies, you have the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe someone is out there at the back of their cubicle crying and breaking down, right?
Yeah.
How do you cure that as a coach, as a kid, and as an adult?
My goodness, it is. I think it's that realization that really everybody matters. That if you can't forget about them, it's not just your star, it's not just your top salesman, it's that low salesman too. Because in 5 years, that low salesman may be your top salesman. That top guy may go and be a competitor of yours, and you need that person. But if you don't treat them that way, it's just having that value of everybody. And there is a reality too, just like with the team. Some people just don't want to, or they can't. And now you do have to cut them. You may have to let an employee go because they don't have the desire to be a teammate and want to show up and work all the time. They can't take the criticism, or some baseball player just really is a better basketball player and really would, in their mind, would rather be a flute player. And there's nothing wrong with that. Flute is where they're going to excel. They can still be treated with respect while they're a baseball player. But then the game will let them know, guess what? You've tried real hard. You can't catch ground ball as consistent as the other kids, so you don't get to play as much. So then you go pick other things. But if there's a different heart that leads and guides that, than kind of the dictatorial, I'm just looking for the best, I'm gonna make you better by the gun type of a method.
Got it. Well, we just got our 5-minute warning. We only have a couple of minutes left. Do you have any other closing comments?
Let's see here. What would be my closing comment? I would just say that we have a great opportunity to use this game of baseball. And when I say baseball, I always include softball, because I teach softball and baseball players, and we didn't touch much on softball, but the girls are such an unserved market, and they haven't had kind of the years of being hammered like the guys have. And the girls will go out there with energy. They're clapping for each other. They aren't worried about pushing another player down to get at the top of the pyramid to be an all-star. Now they're starting to get some of that. They're starting to get very competitive, again, from the parents thinking that, living it through. So I think, again, as parents, make it fun. Sit back and just root for your kid. It doesn't matter if they're the star or not. Just have them work hard and try to be the best player they can. And then within your league, to try to put pressure to get coaches that are more inclusive. There will be a time that you can go travel ball, all-stars, put your best out there. Let's see if we can go hammer the other guys by 15 runs and show we're better. But throughout the league and throughout the community and practices, to be more inclusive. It's not about the win, and having fun, and don't squish the kids' dreams. Your words really matter to them.
Well, when you have, so I loved your parallels with employment, right? I mean, if you've got the team of adults inside of a company, right? Get them to certainly perform, give them the training that they need, right? That's a given. Everybody's trying to do that, but make them feel like they're part of the team. Do they love their job? If they hate their job, I don't know. It sounds like what you're saying, it's on the manager, right? Unless there's outside forces, aside from obviously problems at home, right? It's that emotional bucket. That's positive coaching, right? That emotional bucket. Fill their emotional bucket.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said.
No doubt. Well, hey, Coach Ken Bradley, thank you so much for being a guest here. And I think we've learned an awful lot, not just about league baseball, right? Little league baseball and big league baseball. We also learned a lot about how these parallels can help people in their careers and help managers and help everybody be successful and ultimately happier and better performers. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Dave. It's been a pleasure.
You've been tuning into Innovator Café, the entrepreneur go-to, with your host, attorney Dave Stevens. You can find more episodes on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the website, StevensLawGroup.com. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.